What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Deeper Level Podcast. I am your host, Deeper Depths, and we are back at you with another live stream tonight. Listen, I'm super excited to have our special guest, but before we bring him on, you know the way that we do it. Make sure that you like and subscribe. We are Deeper Depths over on Twitch and also on YouTube. We are simultaneously streaming on both platforms. And listen, we have so much to talk about because tonight we're going to be discussing all things Marvel Spider-Man 2. Now, the game has been out officially now for just a little bit over a month, I think 31 days or 32 days to be exact. Of course, we want to say happy Thanksgiving out there to everybody. So I know a lot of people who are in school, you're on break, teachers are on break, a lot of people have days off. So hopefully you're spending this time with family during the holiday season. But we're glad that you're kicking it with us tonight. So I see some people who are already clicked in and tuned in tonight. Shout out to Shajuri, also Kurt the Gamer. He did, chime in earlier today and just kind of left us a message. Appreciate you so much. Jack Ireland, what's going on, man? That's it. Come on in, share this on social media if you're over on Twitter. Make sure that you share this so that we can get the word out, because I'm telling you, you do not want to miss the content that we're going to be talking about. We're going to debunk some things. We're also going to get into what would be considered spoilers. But again, the game has been out now for 32 days. So I did just want to say that, because we're going to be talking about the end game and some of the stuff that happened throughout the process of playing the game. Tonight is also the night that we're giving away a digital deluxe edition. So I have it right here in my hands, and I'm going to be giving this away to one lucky person tonight. So if you're here for the giveaway, make sure that you stick around because you got to be present to win. Okay. You got to be present to win. Well, without further ado, listen, I'm not doing this podcast alone. I'm collaborating with my good friend all the way from San Francisco. You know him. He is no stranger, especially as it relates to Marvel Spider-Man 1 and 2. He is the leader of the Spidey Squad. And trust me, he has been responsible for helping break the news of some major things in Marvel Spider-Man 2 and Marvel Spider-Man 1. Help me welcome my very special guest, none other than Mr. Evan Filarca. Hey, buddy, how are you, man?
I'm doing phenomenal, sir. Thank you again so much for having me on. It's always a super blast whenever I get to actually collaborate and connect with any fellow Spidey fan out there, but specifically with you and I, like ever since when the amazing news that you got the exclusive with Tony Todd back in 2022 and sharing that to the world and seeing that blow up in such an amazing way. And now the game is out for over a full month now. I can't even believe how far we've come. So I can't wait just to fully dive into the ins and outs with this game with you. And again, thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, man, no problem at all. I'm super excited. And I just want to publicly tell you this before we go further. Of course, I stream a lot as far as, just playing games and stuff like that. And a lot of times I'm talking about it on my stream. But now that I have you here, man, I just wanted to officially and publicly say thank you, man. I mean, my channel literally has doubled in subscribers simply from just being connected with you, man. And, you sharing the news that night of the podcast with Tony Todd. I never in a million years thought it would have the type of response that it had, man. I mean, we went viral, comicbook.com covered us, Screen Rant covered us. I mean, it was just so much, man. I actually thought, because it was late in the night, at the time when you shared it,
Yeah.
I was asleep. So my phone started going off. So I thought somebody had died, man. It was so many messages. So I'm like, what in the world is going on, man? And then I looked up and I traced it back to you, man. So I just wanted to say publicly, thank you, man. You helped changed and shaped my life, man. So appreciate it.
Well, thanks to you for all your awesome scoops. I mean, like, it was so cool seeing, like, back then, like, I know because you did awesome videos recently talking about this and, like, reiterating that news. But back then, we had nothing in 2022, like, literally zilch about Marvel Spider Man 2. And any crumb of info was, like, a gold mine for any of us fans waiting for the game. And your entire interview, besides of what Tony said, but just talking to Tony and hearing your insights and his thoughts and overall, details that you got to discuss with him was phenomenal. So thank you, just from the bottom of my heart, and I think every Spidey fan out there, just thank you for all your incredible work on keeping the hype alive and spreading that excitement with every single person out there. It's truly a genuine treat that we're all lucky enough to enjoy.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much, man. No problem at all. Yeah, and we were starving for quite some time, man. So even when Tony initially agreed to
Yeah.
do the interview, I was kind of like, oh my God, now I didn't expect to get all that we got. And of course, we're going to talk about that tonight as well, just some of the extra stuff, but still I'm just so grateful for everything that he shared. I do want to say this as well, man. Congratulations too, because the last time that I had you as a guest on the podcast, you were almost at the point of 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I had told you on the podcast, I said, man, you're gonna hit it, you're gonna do it, you're gonna blow it out of the water, you're gonna exceed that goal. And so, I just wanted to report to everybody that Mr. Evan Filarca, Mr. Leader of the Spidey Squad, has hit that 100,000, man. How does that feel, bro?
I'm just honored. Honored. Thank you. I mean, that's all because of all the amazing viewers out there who are just kind enough to give me the time of day and hear what I have to say about these super incredible games and this character that we all know and love. But just seeing, like, just for me personally, starting off as just some, college student with a little iPhone doing nothing about, knowing how to make videos or commentary or editing or anything like that, and starting with literally nothing to then just, being fully passionate and dedicated about this character and specifically these games, and seeing the journey that we've been on ever since the reveal trailer in 2016 to the first game releasing in 2018 to Miles releasing in 2020. And now here we are finally with 2023 with Marvel Spider-Man 2 finally in our hands. And that's not all, because there's even more exciting stuff that we could possibly expect in the future, which we're going to dive into. But just being able to help build this community of fans with so many amazing people like yourself and the rest of the Spidey Squad out there is just a dream come true. And being able to meet so many people in person at events and online through YouTube and Twitter and Discord and all these other places is genuinely, like, I couldn't be happier. And I'm just so happy to be where I am now. And hopefully people will still, being entertained and engaged whenever I keep putting out more videos for these games down the line, which I'm super excited about.
Absolutely. And as big of a year as 2023 has been, as I look at it, man, 2024 is going to be just as big, man. We are really in one of the golden eras of gaming, and I couldn't be more excited, man. This is just the perfect time to be a gamer. We have so many single story solo experiences that we're going to get to live out, man. Everything from Iron Man, Black Panther, there's just so much coming, down the road, and I just can't wait. But, saying that, a lot of people have, just kind of moved on to Wolverine, which we know is the
Mm-hmm.
next latest greatest thing that Insomniac is developing. But I'm on the train of thought, and you're on the train of thought, and that's kind of what I want to talk about tonight. That before we just shift our focus to Marvel's Wolverine, I still don't think that we've seen the height of everything that Marvel Spider-Man 2 has to offer. Like, there is so much more I feel that's in store. And the way I want to lead into that is because going back to that original conversation with Tony Todd, of course, I've covered this on my channel. You've covered this on your channel. We've covered this on social media, been tagged in it and talking about it. And we're both advocating for it. And I'm one of the hugest advocates for the fact that I believe something else is coming before we get to Marvel's Wolverine. And the reason why I say that is because in my interview in 2022 with Tony Todd, he said that there was another project. He said this, y'all. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking about hearsay. We're not talking about what we
Nope.
think or speculations. Okay.
Just the facts.
Just the facts. In fact, I loved your response, man. Somebody, was like, man, what are you smoking, bro? We smoking the facts
That's
over here.
just the truth. Just nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth. And you can go back, you can check it and see it on Evan's channel. You can see it on my channel. Tony Todd specifically said, and I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
think we would get this. he kind of detoured and said specifically there is another project that probably doesn't have a hit date until 2024. Now, again, he said, and I quote, now this other project, not saying whether it's a game or not, hint,
Mhm.
hint, is probably going to hit in 2024. Okay, so if that's not enough, back in August, I had the opportunity to drive down to Shreveport, Louisiana, because Najee Jeter was at a Comic Con in Shreveport, and that's not far from where I live. So I was like, yeah, let me drive down, let me get my comic book autographed and just meet him. And we were talking, and once again, the facts are he stated that him, Yuri, and Tony are working on something for 2024. That's exactly what he said, no more, no less. And so I shared that. So, with that being said, Evan, I kind of want to get your thought process on all of this. Um, what do you, because me personally, I feel like one of two things: either we're getting a standalone Venom game, either we're getting an expansion with Venom. Now, I didn't know until you shared it, the post with the concept art of the skill sets
Yes.
for Venom. So talk to us a little bit about this because we got to dig into this.
I've been waiting all day to talk to you about this because this is like the most interesting thing that not only from what Tony has said and what Najee has said, but also with what Insomniac has also said, but also have shown in their concept art. So, to just before I get into that, to back you up even further with those statements that you got from Najee Jeter and Tony Todd, Najee didn't just say that it's with just Tony in the 2024 project. It's Tony, him, and Yuri Lowenthal.
Yes,
So that is insane on several levels because clearly, if you're going to book someone as talented as Tony Todd to play a character as popular as Venom, I highly doubt that you're going to end it with just his role in the game and that's it. If
yes,
anything, I definitely think that this potential 2024 project is more than likely going to be some type of massive extension of Tony in the role of Venom, but it may not be as Harry Osborn's Venom because there's so much going on right
sure.
now with what has happened in the game itself with the story, but also online with the concept art and some recent posts and statements from Tony and Insomniac. So just to kind of like get my head wrapped around everything here. So let's start with Insomniac themselves. So right when the game came out, crazily enough, on October 20th this year, 1 month ago, they were asked in an interview, the senior narrative director himself, John Paquette, was asked about whether or not Insomniac would be up making a standalone AAA Venom game, hopefully in the similar
Uh-huh.
scope to what we saw with Miles Morales' game. Maybe not as big as the main Spider-Man PS4 and Marvel Spider-Man 2 installments, but maybe a smaller scale, shorter length narrative, but still dedicated to Venom in his own game. I think that would be fantastic. What Insomniac said, or specifically what John Paquette said, the narrative director of Marvel Spider-Man 1 and 2,
Mhm.
said that we're going to wait to see what the fans have to say and take what their thoughts are into consideration going forward. Now, I do believe him to an extent, but at the same time, the fact that they already made Venom playable in Marvel Spider-Man 2
Yes,
without doing DLC tells me that they're already in the process of doing something with Venom to elaborate further on what we got. There's no way that's it. I feel like there's going to be more in store, and I'm very pumped to see what that could be. The second thing is with Tony himself. Crazily enough, it's funny enough. Today on Twitter, he went on to post or repost someone's tweet about this standalone Venom game, which is a quote tweet of one of my tweets from the thread that you mentioned earlier about the whole Venom game potentially being made because of what Insomniac have said, the teases from you with Tony and Najee. Um, and someone pretty much said, I'm looking at on it right now in the comments, uh, saying like, if we were to get a Venom game, like the very first dedicated Venom game in existence, because there have been games where you could play as Venom, but those are
sure.
Spider-Man games utilizing that character, like Ultimate Spider-Man, which is one of my favorites. The Lego Marvel games, you can play as Venom. Friend or Foe, it's an old school one. Marvel vs. Capcom. You can play as Venom in these games, but they're not a fully dedicated Venom game experience standalone featuring that character. So what happened online, which is crazy, is that someone said, I want Eddie Brock, to be the main Venom of this potential Venom game if it were to happen. And someone underneath that said, no, it should be Harry because that's who we got in the game and Marvel Spider-Man 2. And, Eddie Brock fans are being a bit, iffy, and whether or not like they want to see Harry back, but they want Eddie instead. And basically, someone just posted a meme saying, like, we should have Eddie Brock as the main Venom in the very first Venom game. And Tony Todd retweeted that. And we know Tony, like, he's super, super kind-hearted, but he's also a troll online. He retweets everything. He likes everything. Yep. He loves going full fan mode on people when it comes to talking about Venom and Spider-Man. Just how excited he gets about this IP is fantastic. So I wouldn't take too much into consideration, but at the same time, I do have to agree with people saying that the first ever standalone Venom game should focus around Eddie Brock, because I do really enjoy what we got with Harry as Venom in Marvel Spider-Man 2, because that fit the narrative that Insomniac was telling. But if they somehow want to bring the symbiote back, and we know that Eddie Brock exists within the Insomniac universe, I feel like it would be a very cool way to kind of elaborate Venom and display Venom in a more authentic way compared to like the comic accurate portrayal of Venom, but also see more of Insomniac's Marvel universe be explored upon. Like, what does Eddie Brock in Insomniac's world look like? How does he act? Is he going to be different from Harry's portrayal of Venom, which was more of a full-on villain version of the character? Or would we get something more akin to what the movies have done in the comics, which he's more anti-hero, lethal protector style Venom in that more kind of dark savior role, which I enjoy aspects of. I was thrilled with the version of Venom that we got in the game, but it would be cool to kind of explore different areas of Venom and also showcase Tony's role as the character in new ways, to see like what can Tony bring to the character of Venom, what we got in the game, but also maybe if he got his own Venom game, what would be different this time around. So from a marketing perspective, Venom is a huge character. He sells like hotcakes. It definitely makes sense for Sony to want to do something like that. And also from the narrative perspective, and what you mentioned also with the concept art, with the gameplay images of Venom's moveset, it would also work to expand his story, potentially bringing in a character like Carnage or the Flame that we saw in those side quests to have Venom fight against in his own game, and to expand his moveset in his own dedicated skill tree and upgrade moves like what we got with Miles and Peter, but for the symbiote and his special moves and his, authentic abilities for Venom in his own unique way of upgrading the character. So I think all the writing is on the wall, like I mentioned in that post, but it's now more apparent than ever that people are, from what I've seen, the general public really liked this version of Venom, but they did want more. They did want to spend more time with Venom in the game and see what his story was all about, since the entire narrative of Marvel Spider-Man 2 was building up to Venom. But once we actually got Venom in the game, people thought maybe we could have gotten a bit more. And what better way to do that than by giving him his own game, or like you mentioned, a DLC expansion, which would still take place in Marvel Spider-Man 2's story, but maybe add in the narrative of Carnage and the other symbiotes that are still lingering around New York. At the end of the game, you still see some of the symbiote henchmen running around the city. And what could that mean if they bring in Eddie Brock as well? So there's so much potential here. I'm sorry for going on that hour-long rant, but I'm so excited to dive into this with you.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said what you said, because it pulled a thought out of me that I didn't have written down. So again, like you said, I do like this iteration of Venom. In my opinion, they've given us thus far the best version of Venom in a video game, period. Insomniac has done that. I think we can all agree on that. But again, even when Venom became playable in the game, because at first there was a speculation as to whether Venom would be playable or not. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that I didn't expect, I don't know if you're like me, Evan, but I didn't expect them to put as much as they did into this game. Creatively, it makes me wonder where they're gonna go just with the future of things with Spider-Man 3, whatever the case may be, because they gave us so much in this game, and that's a good thing. I'm not knocking that. Everything from Scream, like I didn't expect a lot of the stuff that they did. Okay, so here comes Venom, who was too much for Craven to deal with. Spider-Man and Miles had to team up to take him down. So if Carnage is on another level from Venom, and Venom was that much of a problem, then only Venom can fight Carnage, in my opinion. I mean, just from a creative standpoint, if I'm looking at expanding on this game and I'm introducing Carnage, the person to take him down would be Venom, in my opinion. So, because I mean, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. If Venom was that much of a menace, I can only imagine what Carnage is going to be like. Now, a lot of people agree with what we're saying as far as we're getting more content. But what I've read online, people are 50-50. And the people that's not convinced that more content is coming, their biggest concern seems to be that they don't see how we can get a Venom game if Venom is dead. All right, so let's talk about that and kind of debunk some theories. Now, of course, the writers, by the way, shout out to Brittany as well, who's been a guest on the podcast before. I do want to shout out to her because she's one of the writers, and they did a phenomenal job with just this entire game. The writing was phenomenal. Now, of course, the writers are smarter than we could ever be, but in my mind, so there is a way to make it happen. But if in
Hmm.
my mind, creatively, here's what I'm thinking. All right, we know Craven cut a piece of Venom's tongue off. Everybody saw that. It was posted several times. Some people even zoomed in and saw the tongue in the battle arena. Okay, so a piece of his tongue gets cut off. Now, Mary Jane has left the Bugle. She's gone.
Hmm.
She quit. Okay, so what if Jameson hires her replacement? In comes Eddie Brock, all right, as the replacement for Mary Jane because Mary Jane is now quit. Eddie Brock is sent to the battle site of where Craven and Venom fought to investigate, to build a story. All right, he discovers the tongue, or should I say, the tongue discovers him. Boom, the symbiote finds a new host. I mean, there's several ways that this could be done. I mean, and still go forward. Because again, Tony Todd as an actor does not have to change because he's playing Venom. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether
Hmm.
Venom is Eddie Brock or whether Venom is Harry. It doesn't matter. Tony Todd is the actor for Venom, and like you said, to really showcase more of his potential from a diverse standpoint, then I believe this is the perfect time to introduce Eddie Brock. So just in kind of that thought process, that crowd that's saying, "Well, I don't see how it can happen because Venom is dead." What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's so apparent to see the opportunities that Insomniac now have to bring in more characters within the Marvel Universe into these games. Clearly, I mean, what we saw at the very end of Marvel Spider-Man 2's post-credit scenes with Silk, of all
Yes.
characters showing up, which is huge, which is more than likely going to be saved for either her own game or Marvel Spider-Man 3 down the line. But clearly, if they're going that route, I can't imagine them not bringing in one of the most well-known Spider-Man characters of Eddie Brock into a fully dedicated Venom experience. And alongside of that tongue theory, a lot of people don't really seem to recall what happened with Peter once he lost the symbiote as
Oh,
well. Because, and I love what you mentioned about Tony Todd being the voice of Venom, because he's not only Venom in the game, which I love how they did this, is he's also like the symbiote's main voice. He's Harry's voice when he's Venom, and then he's Peter's voice when he's Black Suit Spider-Man. So he has all these different layers, and I can't imagine how cool that must be as an actor to get into that role and kind of like
yes.
embody different aspects of these characters, but as a darker version of them. So I was, fanboying the hell out when those moments were happening. But back to Peter, when he lets go of the symbiote, he's fighting Miles. I got to represent too. He's
Yeah.
in this moment where he's getting rid of it, Miles knocks the bell. He like kind of encourages Peter to let it go. He rips it off, but there's still fragments of it left inside of his body, which is very similar to the Ultimate Spider-Man comics version of it, which I'm a huge fan of. That's one of my all-time favorite versions of Venom, and that storyline is the Ultimate Spider-Man game and comics, but there is fragments of the symbiote within Peter's body. And guess what? Mr. Negative, of all people, comes back to try and help cure that symbiote, but instead of having it get rid of completely, it then turns into anti-Venom, and that's how we get that kind of narrative incorporated into this game, where it's not Eddie Brock who becomes anti-Venom, but Peter instead equips an anti-Venom symbiote-powered suit for him to take out Harry with, and that still shows that the symbiote is left inside of Peter's body, even after he defeats Harry as Venom at the end, and the sonic, particle accelerator goes off and destroys the meteorite. Peter's still wearing that anti-Venom symbiote on him.
Yeah.
So even though he used the anti-Venom powers to separate the symbiote from Harry physically, and that the explosion got rid of the majority of the symbiotes left in the city, we still don't know for sure whether or not if there are symbiote particles left within Harry's body. And if they do decide to do a Venom expansion or a game, but not bring in Eddie Brock, then yes, they could somehow bring back Harry Osborn to reunite with other bits of symbiote, and maybe then he'll awake from his coma and become Venom once again. Because there's also been heavy teases from Tony as well, which we've done videos on and covered, where he literally added Yuri and Najee in post with the Venom theme from Eminem saying, "I'll see you guys soon."
Yep.
And this was after the game came out. So we all knew, like far after the game came out. So we all knew at this point what the end result of Venom was by the core campaign's conclusion, where Harry's gone, he's in a coma, he's not Venom anymore, but he'll be back. Like, so that's very interesting to see Tony's, continued dedication to Venom, but also his repeated teasing towards Venom, saying, hey, we're not done yet, pretty much. So if they bring in Eddie to somehow connect with another symbiote, whether it's the tongue in Times Square or maybe like a random symbiote out of nowhere, because we also see at the end when you're just swinging around the city in the final, third act of the game after beating Venom, there's still symbiotes hanging around New York. And Cletus has a symbiote. Cletus Cassidy, the Flame, has his hands on a red symbiote. And I don't think that the explosion from that particle accelerator got rid of that. Otherwise, what was the point of that entire side quest if it just went away?
Sure.
No, the symbiote that Cletus has is more than likely still around, as are other symbiotes kind of lingering in the city. And like you said, what better way to have a new character come into the fray to cover all this rampage and carnage than Eddie Brock, reporter at the Daily Bugle, investigative journalist, and potential character that may or may not meet Spider-Man at some point. So I think it would be a fantastic way to do it and show even more sides of Venom in the game that we might have not, expected. Because what they did with Harry, I really enjoyed, but it also was almost a homage to all these other versions of Venom from the comics, because we got Harry in the Agent Venom suit pretty much in his kind of good guy arc, teaming up with Peter. Then he becomes full-on villain Venom, like what we know from his classic comics. And then he goes even crazier detailed with the Noel, Ryan Stegman, Donny Cates Venom wings, which was insane to see. And go even further into that lore of the symbiote and what that means for the alien race of the Clintar and all that. I have no clue if a character like Noel is going to show up in these games. I don't know if that's too much of a deep cut, but clearly they teased it with the spiral. So who knows what else Insomniac could do for the Venom lore, because Venom as a character has just as much, if not more, lore than Spider-Man does in his comics. So, and all the other people down the line who end up obtaining the Venom symbiote, who become hosts, like people have already mentioned, Mania is one of them. We got Scream, Venom, Anti-Venom, Agent Venom, Carnage. Like, it's infinite, the amount of possibilities that we now have here. And I could be more excited for what that could mean for potential DLC or a new game down the line.
Absolutely. And you know what? Saying that, Evan, again, Venom basically having just as much lore and influence as Spider-Man. With that being said, okay, yes, Insomniac loves to develop games. I mean, we know that this is their passion. The team loves what they do. But at the end of the day, we are here to make money as well. So I said that to say this from a monetizing standpoint, it makes total sense to capitalize on Venom even further beyond just Marvel Spider-Man 2. I'm sure the executives at Sony wants it. I'm sure, PlayStation wants it. The marketing, the promotion, I mean, they are on to something. Now, with that being said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to be sure. In Marvel's Spider-Man PS4 in 2018,
Hmm.
did the game initially come with New Game Plus built in?
No, it
Okay.
did not. And I do find that very odd that that's something that people are kind of complaining about. I do understand why they're upset it's not there at launch, because obviously it'd be great if it was. But if you've seen the patterns from other the PlayStation Studios games that we've gotten, like God of War Ragnarok, and even some of the
Mhm.
Naughty Dog stuff, I think with Last of Us, they didn't add New Game Plus either until a few months afterwards. Which, yes, it is unfortunate it's not there at launch, but that seems to be the way that the gaming industry goes nowadays. And as a bonus, we won't have to wait that much longer because it's coming out in December. New Game
Absolutely.
Plus with new free suits, as accessibility options added too. So no, just wait. Just, it'll be here when it's here, and it'll be definitely worth the wait. And I can't wait for it because I'm already on my third playthrough right now on standard
Awesome.
new game difficulty on ultimate level. So I'm getting my butt whooped, but I'm just loving playing through the game again. But yeah, New Game Plus is going to be dope. But is that like for another subject you wanted to dive into, like because of New
Well,
Game Plus?
the thing is that you kind of touched on, what I was going to touch on in the sense that it was a complaint for some people, but they've never done that. So I don't
Yeah.
know why the expectations of people were different. So I
Hmm.
just kind of wanted to confirm my thought process on that. So
Right.
December, right around the corner, we got New Game
Hmm.
Plus coming. Um, Also, let's discuss what happened at the end of Spider-Man 2. Okay, so we know that uh Norman Osborn, of course, is in distress because of what has happened to Harry. And he says, get the G serum ready, which we know
Yes, he
what that
does.
is.
Whew.
Here comes Green Goblin. All right. So he says, get the G serum ready. All right. Well, then he goes and he seeks out Dr. Otto Octavius, who is,
Hmm.
detained, and he's got his back turned, and Otto is reading the book, of course, and he says, hey, what are you working on or what are you reading? And Doc Ock turns around and he says, the final chapter. Okay, now,
Hmm.
do you think, and this is just a theory, symbolically, okay, because again, Insomniac is a very busy studio. All right. So in my opinion, they're potentially working on this expansion DLC or Venom game. All right. They're working on Wolverine. They're working on another AAA multiplayer game, which doesn't have anything to do with Marvel or anything like that. So let's just set the record straight
Yes.
for that. Um, do you think that Marvel Spider-Man 3 will be the final Spider-Man game? By him saying the final chapter,
Yeah.
I mean, should we take that metaphorically? Should we take that figuratively? Is because by the time Spider-Man 3 comes out, we're probably looking at next gen systems. We're probably
Yeah.
looking at a PlayStation 6 because they have so many different, and then Wolverine will probably get a second game. Okay, so there's so
Hmm.
much that they have to make. And do you think we could potentially see a Miles Morales 2 before Spider-Man 3, or do you think they may just skip Miles Morales 2 and go straight to 3? What do you think?
I can't, like, based on everything that you just said, I can't even fathom how much Insomniac is able to put out in such a short amount of time with all these different games.
Sure.
It's wild because we've got Spider-Man PS4 in 2018. Then only 2 years later, we got Miles Morales on both PS4 and PS5 and the PS5 remaster of Marvel Spider-Man 1. Then both Miles and Marvel Spider-Man Remastered were ported to PC. Then we got Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart in 2021. And now we have Marvel Spider-Man 2. And then we're getting Wolverine and a multiplayer game from Insomniac and hopefully more. It's insane how much work they're doing. And every single one of those games is phenomenal. So I don't know what they're doing over there, but they are genuinely, I honestly believe this, carrying the PlayStation 5 as a whole right now. I don't think
Yes.
there's any other
Yes.
PS5 first party developer for Sony right now that's doing what they're doing on the level of quality that they are doing it. In fact, like, of course, would we have liked certain aspects of the narrative for Marvel Spider-Man 2 to be more extended or a bit more, heightened? Of course, but you can't deny that the quality of the games that they're putting out is exceeding, if not surpassing, anything that any of these other developers have even managed to put out in the span of 5 years, let alone what they've done in such a short amount of time between each of these major games. So because of that, I am so perplexed right now. Like, it's honestly giving me like the best headache I could imagine of what they're working on as we speak right now, because we obviously know Spider-Man 3 is going to happen no matter what. I do think there is a very highly likely chance that that could be a PlayStation 6 launch title as well as a PS5. Like, it'll be a cross-gen title, PS6 and
Sure.
PS5. Late, most likely 2028 if they take another 5 years to work on it, which would be so heartbreaking for me. I'll be 30 at that point. But I definitely could see that. But in the meantime, that's where it gets interesting, because we all know Spider-Man 3 is happening, just like we knew after we beat the first game that Spider-Man 2 is happening. So Spider-Man 3 and Wolverine are a given. And now what we know with Wolverine, that could more than likely release by the late end of 2024 or 2025 spring or summer, I would say at the latest, or fall. But that game is definitely locked in for the next 2 years for sure. What I find
Absolutely.
interesting is the Spider-Man project that's more than likely going to release in between all those. So
Yes.
Spider-Man 2 just came out. We may or may not get DLC for it. We're going to get Wolverine and Spider-Man 3. What is that secret project that we don't know for sure, but are highly speculative towards is going to happen? Could it be a Venom game, or would they do something like you said? It has to be, yes, a game that we would be interested in playing, and of course it's in the Spider-Man universe, but is the character marketable enough to deserve their own title? And a character
Sure.
like Silk is where I'm very curious about, because unlike Miles, Silk doesn't have that same backing like Miles does. She's an
Sure.
interesting character for sure, but I highly doubt that if you were to ask someone like the general public, do you know who Miles Morales is? Yes, I do. He's Spider-Man. Do you know who Peter Parker is? Yes, of course. He's also Spider-Man. Do you know who Cindy Moon is? I'm pretty sure 1 of 10 people are going to know that the answer to that question.
Yep.
So because of that, it is cool to see and speculate from a gamer perspective, but you're right. First and foremost, it is a business. And we have to take into consideration Sony's take towards this because of how well the sales have done for all these games. So to put this into perspective, is that Spider-Man PS4 in 2018 is still, to this day, the highest selling superhero game of all time, with over 20 million copies sold in the span
Wow.
of 2 years, I think it was. And then you add Miles on top of that, and I think they released a statement, I believe, earlier this year or last year, that the franchise of Spider-Man in general, before Spider-Man 2 came out, have sold over 33 million copies worldwide.
Goodness.
So even though Miles is part of that 33 million, it's not as much as the 20 million that Peter sold.
Sure.
So taking that into consideration, would they risk doing a Silk spin-off game with a character that not a lot of people are aware of? I would say no, which is why Mr. 19 inches over here, I'm looking at behind my computer, is the statue of Venom. How massively they marketed him as the main threat for this game, and how much Tony Todd loves this character tells me that they want to milk that as much as possible. And for
Yes,
me, and I'm sure you as well as diehard Venom fans, we're more than happy to get that milked beyond belief. Like if they want to do a
absolutely,
Venom game, Venom DLC, more Venom merch. I'm still waiting for that Venom Funko Pop for these games, for this game
absolutely.
and these other characters. I need that. I think that the safe bet to do right now is like what John Paquette said. We're going to take fans' feedback into consideration and determine our next steps going forward after the fact. So, because people really, I think the general public at least, they liked to then loved this version of Venom. I don't think anyone really hated this version, just that we wanted to see more of him be
Or
fleshed out
yes,
further. Exactly. So, because of that, the best way to do that would be to deliver the fans the definitive Venom game experience, which I think would be fantastic if they were to include Eddie, have a playable Venom with his own dedicated skill tree, and fully open world explorable traversal as well, and all those concept art images that we saw with the different attacks where he has a giant, it's almost like prototype, like
yes,
2.0 or 3.0, since there was a prototype too, but the prototype game made by Radical Entertainment, but next gen and with Venom. And if they do that, I guarantee you that not only would people eat that up, but it would also sell way more than any potential Silk or other Spider Person spin-off game could ever do.
absolutely. Well said, my friend. Well said. Again, I'm just wondering, like you, it blows my mind to try and fathom what all Insomniac could potentially be working on because, again, look at the set pieces. Okay,
Yes.
they're famous, Insomniac, for opening a game with just the most beautiful, drawn out, dramatic fights. In this one, we got Sandman. And again, this game was not developed on Unreal Engine 5, even though we know that's a thing, but it looked like Unreal Engine 5. I mean,
Yes.
Insomniac, developers, when you got developers that know what they're doing, they know how to make the most of the tools that they have to work with. So phenomenal job. Wolverine, me and Alex had this conversation the other day. You know, the Wolverine game could potentially open with the Hulk fight. I mean, I'm just dreaming.
Ooh.
It could potentially open with the Hulk fight because what I believe is gonna happen because of Insomniac's ability to sell, and this is a business, and because, they are the best of the best, Marvel continues to release new IPs to them. They got the Wolverine IP, they've got the Spider-Man IP. I mean, what's not to say that they won't keep going, that we may not
Mm-hmm.
get a Hulk game. So again, when I say that Spider-Man 3 may be the final Spider-Man game, that's not to say that Insomniac is done. That just says that they're going to, use their resources and tell some of these other stories. I love the fact that, the whole Daredevil thing is being teased, him showing up. I mean, Insomniac is cooking, man. I mean, I would just love to know what their 10-year plan is, because I
Yes.
guarantee it's mind-blowing just to see their timeline on a vision board or something where they truly wanna go, and then there was that whole thing in this game with Doctor Strange. I mean,
Yes.
it's oh my god, I mean, just honestly, I would trust Insomniac with any game. I mean, any character you can throw out there, Insomniac is the go-to company and development team to bring this stuff to life. So again, man, I can't imagine what all we're about to see here in the near future. Um, so, with that being said, um, I want to get into a portion of the show, and I do want to say this. I want to say this publicly, which I told Evan this kind of behind the scenes before we came on live. I'm getting ready to do the giveaway because I know some people are here for this, and I want to make sure that we do this because I want to adhere to what I had promised we're going to do. So I'm getting ready to give away a Spider-Man 2 Digital Deluxe Edition. Of course, this is on PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
So you can only redeem it on PlayStation. But I actually had a conversation with Tony Todd
Yes,
earlier
sir.
today. And my plan was to have him come on and help me do the giveaway. He's actually traveling to Evan's spot right now in San Francisco to do a con this weekend. So he's going to be in San Francisco for the next 3 days or whatnot. And his flight is actually going on at the time of this podcast. So he wasn't able to come on for that purpose, but he was totally down to do it. He was like, man, when is it? When are you giving it away? I'd love to come on. And as soon as I gave him the time, he said, man, I'm going to be traveling to go to San Francisco to do this con. So with that being said, though, he does send his blessing and his love to everybody out there, to the Spidey Squad, to everybody that's watching right now. So here's what I want you to do. If you are here for the giveaway tonight, the first person, all right, so get ready. Here we go. Get ready. Get your fingers set on your keyboard. Get your fingers set on your phone. I want to ask a quick question. What is the name of the voice actor who voices Craven? First person to type it in the
Ooh,
chat is
good one.
who's getting the giveaway. Here we go. Let's go.
Nice.
First person. The voice actor for Craven on Marvel Spider-Man 2. What's his real name? First person that says it, you got it.
Who, by the way, did a phenomenal performance in the game. Outstanding.
Somebody's Googling right now.
And went out like a legend against Venom.
A legend. There it is. Ghosty. Ghosty. That's it.
Woo!
That's it. Yes, sir. That's it. Hey,
Ghosty
man, it's yours, bro. I tell you what, if you will, send me a message over on Twitter. Deeper Depths is my Twitter handle. Send me a message and I'll shoot you the code. But this is a digital deluxe edition of Spider-Man 2. So congratulations to Ghostly. You got it. Goatsy, if I'm saying that right. This is yours. Congratulations, my friend. Appreciate you for tuning in to the Deeper Level. Evan, man, any final thoughts, man? Because like I said, I mean, I'm on this train that we're getting something else in 2024 related to the narrative of Spider-Man 2. But is there any final thoughts that you just want to share with us, or something you want to get out, man?
I mean, what I would love is like to get the general consensus from people out there. Like, would you buy a Venom game? I feel like I would be like insane in saying like only a few people would want. I feel like everyone would want to see a standalone Venom game. And if like worst case scenario, if it's an expansion pack, that's still cool too, because I think it would be insanely awesome if we were to somehow get Insomniac's rendition. Since we already got their version of Web of Shadows, now we take that a step further, and now they give us Maximum Carnage. If they do that and have Cletus come out and have all these other villains come in, and now Spider-Man and Venom have to team up to fight this ultimate threat, and if it's Eddie Brock as Venom and Peter comes out of retirement, quote unquote, even though he's totally not retired, I would pass out. I mean, that would be the coolest dream vision for them to do. It would be just pure fan service. And especially since they already teased so much with other villains already coming into the fray, like Chameleon, Carnage, Doc Ock returning, Green Goblin, even though they'll most likely be the main villains of the third game. But seeing now, knowing that Kraven already killed off a majority of the Sinister Six with Shocker, Vulture, Scorpion, and Rhino, which is crazy, and Electro, it shows now like who's left. And we know that some of these other villains are reformed, like Mysterio, who was in the game, is now a good guy. And Harry is in a coma, so he may not be able to return as the Venom that we saw in the game. But it's still going to be very interesting to see what they can do to kind of bide their time in between waiting for so long until the inevitable third game releases, but also do it in a way that would allow the story to be expanded forward with purpose. Because the reason why I really enjoyed the DLC for the first game, even though some people may not enjoy it as much, but the City That Never Sleeps DLC I thought was great because it expanded the Rogues Gallery for Spider-Man with Black Cat and Hammerhead and gave them their own stories, but also kind of closed out some unresolved things in the
Sure.
campaign. So we got the return of Silver Sable in the final chapter, and also got to explore the relationship that Peter had with Felicia and their past, and then also the Mafia side with Hammerhead. But that also in turn started the origin story for Wraith, who we now saw in Spider-Man 2, and now who is hopefully going to be our companion when we're fighting Carnage in whatever we see him next. So because of that, if we end up getting DLC for Spider-Man 2, it has to be done with a purpose that gives depth to the game's campaign in a way that makes it feel like it has meaning, but also in a way that makes it feel like, oh, you know, that thing that they didn't really resolve fully in the campaign? Well, here's the DLC to solve that issue. And if they do it with Carnage or Chameleon or whoever, then hopefully it allows each of the Spider-Men and even maybe Venom's return to get more time on screen to further flesh out their relationships with one another.
Sure.
And I would love to see that in full. And my God, I mean, Insomniac's work ethic is bonkers.
Yes.
I can't even
Yes.
imagine, like, and shout out to them as well for getting nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards, which I would love
Absolutely.
it if it wins. I'm sure it's probably going to go to either Zelda or something else, sadly, but it'll be my, and I'm sure your personal Game of the Year in our hearts. But the
Absolutely.
main thing for me, this is a sidetrack, but the main thing for me is that I would be elated and super upset if Yuri does not somehow win Best
Absolutely.
Performance. I can
There you go.
understand if you want to give it to Ben Starr, who plays Clive Rosfield in Final Fantasy 16. I don't know if you played that game. I did. I
Yes.
loved it.
Yes.
He was phenomenal in that. But Yuri hit on such a personal level for me in every part of his performance. And I would love to see if he wins. But speaking of the Game Awards, which is where I kind of wanted to transition into that, is that could be where we potentially receive a trailer for any and
Absolutely.
all DLC. If they end up doing a DLC pack for Spider-Man 2, we could get it there because, which is interesting, when the first game was coming out, when the pre-orders went live for the collector's edition and all the other editions for the game, they already said at that point there was going to be DLC for Spider-Man 1. And not just
Hmm.
a DLC, but 3 separate DLC story chapters, each with their own missions, suits, and storylines for these
Yes.
characters. So they already made that clear well in advance for the first game that there was DLC. For Spider-Man 2, we know nothing. So we don't even know for sure if there's going to be DLC, but I definitely think like it would be the best move if they were to do that. So that way they could resolve all the leftover symbiote storyline stuff, like what we know with Carnage
Hmm.
in this base game of Marvel Spider-Man 2 in this main campaign for the DLC, instead of having that carry over to deal with further into Spider-Man 3, where we're going to focus on Green Goblin and the return of Doc
Yes.
Ock and Silk and Miles being the main Spider-Man now and Peter's
Uh-huh.
still on break. So if they were to resolve all this symbiote stuff with Carnage here in a expansion DLC pack, and knowing that Wolverine is coming out maybe next year at the earliest, late next year at the earliest, I definitely could see Insomniac pulling out a surprise and revealing a DLC trailer announcement for Spider-Man 2 at the Game Awards. Because, as a comparison, I believe they also did the same thing for Horizon Forbidden West with the Burning Shores
Yes.
DLC. Was that
Yes.
also at the Game Awards when they revealed
Yes.
that trailer? So there you
Absolutely.
go. So knowing that Sony likes to kind of hold things for Jeff, Mr. Exclusive himself, Keeley, which I'm sure, sidebar, he'll probably also reveal a new trailer for Death Stranding 2, since he's all buddy-buddy with Kojima. I think
Yep.
if they want to get that Sony train going, I think a good balance there would be Death Stranding 2 trailer, Spider-Man 2 DLC trailer, and then maybe another trailer for The Last of Us 2 remaster that we now know we're getting from Naughty Dog. So I think that'd be great. And it would also reassure a lot of Spider-Man 2 fans out there, because the game is still fairly recent, but a lot of people,
Yes.
like you mentioned, like, where's New Game Plus? Where's new suits? Where's DLC? Like, in a way, that's a good sign, because that just means that they want more of the game, because the
Absolutely.
game was so engaging and impactful for people that they just want to experience more of it. So the fact that people are still discussing about it in that such of a passionate way means that people would not be upset at all or disinterested, I would say, if they were to announce a DLC for Spider-Man 2 with Carnage as the main villain, with the return of Venom, but with Eddie Brock in the main role instead. And then that leads into a Venom game down the line. Because
Yes.
it would be one thing if it was only Tony Todd teasing that 2024 project. But
Sure.
no, it's
Oh,
Najee and Tony teasing it and confirming that all three of them, Najee, Yuri, and Tony, are involved in this. So
absolutely.
that, the writing's on the wall, the proof is in the pudding. You've done an amazing job getting all the scoops for it. And I, for one, can't be more hyped to see whatever they do next. As someone who was already totally content with like them in advance saying this is not Eddie Brock as Venom, it's Harry as Venom, I accepted that. And I was already actually personally way more interested in that compared to Eddie.
Sure.
When they were promoting Spider-Man 2. Now, seeing that Harry's story has kind of concluded, I think it would be a cool way to introduce a classic, more authentic or more genuine, I would say,
Sure.
interpretation of Venom with Eddie now in that role in a DLC or a standalone game, because people would eat that up and it would be marketable for Sony's side of things to like, here's the most definitive Venom experience you could possibly imagine with Eddie Brock in the center stage. So that would be fantastic. And at this point, if Sony and Marvel were to slap an Insomniac logo on anything, people would get it. And
They get it.
Marvel, like, they would get it. They were getting it
Absolutely.
with Wolverine. We just got it with Spider-Man 2. Even though that multiplayer project isn't most likely going to be Marvel, people are still going to get that because we know how dedicated Insomniac are to their craft. And man, it's just a good time to be a gamer. So with
Yes,
that in
sir.
mind, stay tuned for the Game Awards. Vote if you haven't already. The only vote that
Yes.
I've ever voted for this gift for the Game Awards that I care for is for these games and these roles and these performances. So here's hoping that Spider-Man 2 wins at least one thing during the award show for Jeff Keighley's side of giving all the awards out, but also alternatively, fingers crossed that we could end up seeing a trailer of sorts for any potential Spider-Man 2 DLC. And if we do, definitely subscribe and stay tuned to the Deeper Depths because he'll keep you up to date with everything relating to these games because he's your number one source for all the inside scoops for these titles.
Man, I certainly appreciate it, Evan. And I tell you what, I think Insomniac was nominated for 7 different categories
Yep.
at the Game Awards. So we are taking something home. And my sentiments exactly. I would like to see Spider-Man 2 win Game of the Year. There is a stacked ballot. I
Very.
will say there's a stacked ballot. If by chance it didn't, my sentiments exactly. If Yuri doesn't win the best performance, then hey man, I'm gonna be on the train saying, "Hey, recount, somebody cheated," because he put his heart and soul into it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, hey, we know something is coming for 2024, so stay tuned. Again, this is the 10th anniversary for the Game Awards, so it's going to be a big moment. All right, so it's no telling what all we might see. So again, I'm with you, Evan, that this is the perfect time to reveal more about Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Well, listen, if you have not liked and subscribed, make sure you do that right now to Deeper Depths on YouTube, also on Twitch. Also, follow Evan. I've got it strolling across the bottom of the screen. Hit him up on YouTube. It's the same at Evan Filarca as well as Twitter. Let me tell you, man, shout out to the Spidey Squad. I'm an honorary member, people. Listen, I love the Spidey Squad. They've been here for me. I love the support. It's been huge. Listen, thank you so much for your time tonight, Evan. I know you're glad to be on break from school. I know you're killing it in school, brother. Listen, enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. Shout out to everybody who watched. This is Deeper Depths and Evan Filarca signing out on the Deeper Level. And we'll see you again on the next stream. Peace.
Peace, Spidey Squad.